What should Michael Stewart Robb's next book be about? Give only the title of your top choice.
The Evolution of Modern Christian Thought.
I have a love-hate relationship with artificial intelligence and with the new technology associated with it. Maybe you do too. In particular, I'm worried about how it may make our lives more difficult, even though in the short run, it makes them easier. I'm particularly worried about thinking. See, thinking is a skill, and if we outsource it to other things, then guess who is not going to be getting the benefit of practicing thinking? It's kind of like those motorized carts that you see in Walmart. Perhaps you've seen a video of that. And I understand it's a big store and some people need the carts. But perhaps we can agree that you would be better off if you didn't need the cart. And yet, all that said, I am using new technology to help me write my next book. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb, better known as Mike. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time to think with me for a few moments. If that's your kind of thing, then you should subscribe to this channel. I don't say that quite as often as I should, and I also don't say that you should subscribe to our almost monthly newsletter, which you can find over at Sanctus Institute. It's almost monthly because I write it and I do other things, and therefore I don't always have a chance to write it. One of the other things that I do, which you may have already figured out, you probably already know, is write labor-intensive books. So the one book that I wrote here that's perhaps relevant took me 10 years to write, The Kingdom Among Us, and it may take you 10 years to read it because it's 500 pages. And I think writing those kinds of books is important. Labor-intensive, ones that really make us think. I also do creative writing, and that's another kind of labor-intensive writing and requires a different kind of reading. Now, I'm not a journalist, so the things that I write don't come out very quickly, and I think it's important for me to be the expert for the things that you find in the book, to have their source in me and in who I am and who I have become. And I think in general that is what we hope for in the books that we buy. And we would be a little surprised if we found out that the name on the cover of the book isn't what actually produced the book that we have in our hands. Now, it is not something perhaps many of you know, but my wife is an artificial intelligence programmer. She's a machine learning engineer, so she uses machines to create tools which then create tools for other machines which companies buy, and they may sell those machines to you. Now, I say that just to mention that we have educated discussions about this kind of stuff. She obviously knows way more about it than I do, but we have them at home. It's a part of our life, and that may surprise you, especially if you know that I resist technology in certain ways. People will tell you we live in a digital age, and therefore you need to have this or that, or you're just going to be left behind in the Stone Age. And I just kind of think sometimes, yeah, that's not true. However, I will point out that I do use a lot of technology to produce even books like this, which were still written in very old school ways, although not terribly old school. But things like a word processor, which is now, I don't know anybody that's typing things out. I have used notebooks to write out things like actual paragraphs, and sometimes that can help. I do and did for a book like that take a lot of notes by hand, because I know that writing actually helps you remember things quite well. I think it's 8 times better than just hearing or reading something if you write it out. For a book, again, like this, search function, I mean, the ability now to search through a lot of texts for particular words or phrases that I need, invaluable. There's just so much information to deal with and be able to need to pull together that I'm very glad for that technology. Now, with this new book, I am using yet different kinds of technology, and I want to say a couple things about that. One thing that I'm using transcription software. Now, my wife helped me build a little tool for which we are transcribing audio. There's a lot of audio that I need to deal with, and we are turning that into transcripts through artificial intelligence and a model that can spit out transcripts for me, and then I can use those transcripts to do those searches that I need to do, looking for words, looking for phrases, and all that kind of thing. Obviously, that was possible with text for a long time, but now with the transcriptions, I can do it with audio as well. I've also been doing a lot more. We have pictures of pages and OCR transcriptions, the ability to search through images for words, is just increasing my potential to cover a whole lot of ground. Another way that I have been using technology is with ChatBots, so Gen AI stuff, ChatGPT, that sort of thing. And like everybody, I have been asking these chatbots questions and then seeing what kinds of results come back. And I have asked it questions about areas which I have a good deal of knowledge about, and that has taught me that I should distrust quite a bit of what it says. A lot of times it's just telling me what it thinks that I want to hear, and not necessarily what it has verified with sources. That's something really interesting. Having grown up with the internet, I have an instinctive understanding of how to evaluate different things that are found on the internet, and I can kind of just see by looking at a website, oh, okay, that's going to be a valuable source of information, and that one's not going to be. Well, I recognize that these chatbots don't really know the difference. They're compiling a bunch of things, and they can't really evaluate the quality of those things. So lots of distrust goes into that, and yet at the same time, there is so much, particularly in my field of theology and philosophy, so much to remember that it can be helpful to ask questions and say, what did so-and-so think about this particular thing? Because I don't remember it. And I've got encyclopedias and dictionaries and reference books in this room, and there are some available online. But sometimes it takes a long time to find exactly what you're looking for, and sometimes it's just not even in those resources, and then you're looking for articles, and then it takes a long time to read the article, and maybe it wasn't even the right article and all of that. Well, asking the chatbot can compile that pretty quickly. And yet at the same time, even though I get an answer and I can recognize, oh, okay, that's probably the right answer, I still have to say, boy, that's something to not put directly into my paper, because the likelihood that it is not an accurate, well thought out statement is quite high. And yet it still does help me recall things that are important for what I'm writing about. The other thing that I have been using chatbots for is to summarize things for me. It's a bit like a research assistant. So sometimes I come across a book or an article which I think could be relevant, but I'm not sure. And I know that sitting down and reading it carefully is going to take me an hour. And so if it's something that is available freely, I can take that, I can give it to the chatbot, say, you read this, and then give me a summary of it. And then I can read the summary, and then I can know whether it's going to be worth my time or not. And that is a really interesting function, to just be able to get a sense of whether we should open particular doors or just leave them shut and move on, using it as a research assistant. Now, lastly, there's this question of whether I would use a chatbot to help me write. And by and large, I am better at writing than any chatbot. When you read it, it kind of reads like a freshman paper. It reads like Wikipedia, but more on a bad Wikipedia article. And I can write better than that. And I've worked at writing better than that. And therefore, for anybody who is trying to write well, probably it's more like that Walmart motorized cart for them. Now, I was saying this to a friend who was suggesting that I use ChatGPT for something. And I said, hey, I can write better than ChatGPT. And my friend said, yeah, you can write better than ChatGPT. But what it can be good for is ideas. And this doesn't have as much to do with writing, but I think that's really interesting and helpful comment about what these chatbots can do. It's a bit like an extension of our own brainstorming. They can help come up with things that maybe we haven't been thinking about, and then we can evaluate and say, oh yeah, that actually could work. And I think the analogy to use here is to think of these chatbots as Watson, Dr. Watson, and I am Sherlock Holmes. That is, Watson is always helpful in certain ways for Sherlock Holmes to solve the crime. But you have to remember that Watson is an idiot. And Watson doesn't really see what Sherlock sees. Sherlock is the smart one. And you are the smart one. And if you go into a case you're trying to solve, something that you are trying to think about, and try to use Watson as if he's the smart one and you're the dumb one, then you've got the roles reversed. Watson can be very helpful, can make Sherlock think of ideas, think of things that he wasn't quite thinking about, but not because Watson really knows the answers, more just he fumbles into it. It's a bit like a sounding board, perhaps. Well, that is how I have been using artificial intelligence and new technology in the writing of my book. And I wonder how you have been using it, especially if you do any writing or research or creative things. But just in general, whether there are things that have been helpful for you. Write those in the comments. Send us an email, info@sanctus.institute. And I will see you next time. Happy thinking. Bye.